myself. So I'm Aidan from Amicus Recruitment. As I'm sure everyone's aware, I specialise in hiring for JavaScript across Germany, as well as wider Europe, as well as hosting these roundtables discussing various topics. And today we're going to be discussing remote working, everything that comes with that, challenges, benefits, as well as the opposite side of it, of the value of in-office working. And I've got today with me Marc, Zahn, Dragan, Lalos, Shraddha, Kandpal, and Kamal, Languani. And yeah, it'd be great if everyone could go around and maybe introduce themselves and give themselves a bit of a brief introduction, and we'll maybe start with Dragan.
Okay, so thank you first for having me here, right? It's a pleasure to be with you guys and to discuss very interesting topic these days. Like, my name is Dragan Lalos. I work for Omnisafe as a VP of engineering, and it's a company of InsurTech, and we are like first remote company, right? Remote first company, like 15 plus years of experience with all different topics, front end, back end, database design. And that's like the reason why I'm currently working in this role, and to unify all of that one. And I hope that we'll have like interesting topics here to discuss and to learn something, or to show to like community how it can be solved in this and that way.
Excellent. Yeah, Kamal, do you want to maybe give us a bit of an intro into?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks. Apologies for a slight delay. So I'm Kamal. I have started my career at Deloitte Consulting, worked a couple of years there. That was an in-office setup. This was all pre-COVID, a lot of experience pre-COVID. Did my own startup that was also like, I invited people to join in person to work with us. Last 3 years, I was working at a company called Affinity, leading several teams remotely. It was a remote first company. And I also got the opportunity to lead teams across continents. So in different time zones: Singapore, Berlin, Ukraine, and India. And just recently, about a month ago, I joined a company called Forto, again, engineering management. And this is a hybrid setup. So a couple of days in office and then the rest remote. Happy to get into interesting topics around remote versus in-person, and how maybe the leadership styles change or evolve in both worlds.
And Shraddha, do you want to maybe give us a brief intro into yourself?
Sure, thanks for inviting me again. My name is Shraddha. I have total 10 plus years of work experience. Started my journey back in India with a telecom company, moved into a startup, was there for 6.5 years. And I think that is where most of my growth actually happened. 3 months back, I moved to Amsterdam in a company called Adyen as a team lead. And yeah, I'm here to, I think, listen to more ideas and gain more perspective from fellow folks.
And yeah, last but not least, Marc, do you want to give us an intro into yourself?
Yeah, my name is Marc, obviously. I'm here for the second time. Thanks, Aidan, for this. I started, 15, 17 years ago, my career more or less as a freelancer, doing websites next to school, getting some money with it, and then grew over the time into the software engineering role, senior software engineer, and then 2018 for the first time in leadership roles. And yeah, I do this since for the last 5 years now. And yeah, I had the opportunity to do both in so completely office work, hybrid work, complete remote teams. And yeah, I'm also super looking forward to the input that I get from here, from the experience from you guys.
Yes, Marc. Yeah, and I suppose the first thing I want to start with is like everyone's personal experience with remote work. Like, when was the first time you experienced it, and what was like the first challenge you came across? Yeah, do you want to maybe we'll go back in the same order, I suppose. Dragan, do you want to start us off?
Yes, I can. So basically, when I started first remote, it was probably 10 years ago. And that was, to be honest, like my dream to work remote. And I got opportunity to work some like USA company, and it was like for the first of couple of months was really good. Like, I really enjoyed, you're indoor, like your home is office, you have everything what you need there. But after like 3-4 months, it started to be somehow like, I would not say problems, but it was very hard for me to keep with this like motivation, tempo, or I miss people in person or lunches or discussions. Like everything started to miss me. I somehow felt that I'm alone in this one. Like, and then I need like team. I need that people. Even you have them virtually, but it was really hard in that moment of time. And then I back to the office. And then after that one, like when Corona kicks in, right, or kicked in, and then we also like needed to go home, but that was a different time. I had like kind of like some previous experience, what I would expect or like how that will go. Then I would say prepare myself better, and then it started to talk more to friends and to have some collaborative tools, go out or this or that one, just to try to be like somehow still connected to that people. And then like long story short, I would say that for me, the best work hybrid, right? That you can go to the office, because I still didn't find the replacements for whiteboard. That's how I see it. Like if you need to discuss something, brainstorm, or to do some very efficient meetings, I would say still you need to be in the office. Like that's how I see it, right? That's my experience. So I would say hybrid works for me the best.
Excellent. Cheers, Dragan.
Yeah. Thanks, Dragan. So I started proper remote work, as I said, around three years ago. That was right after COVID. Before that, we had some hints of remote work in my previous companies. It was more like a sick leave kind of thing, where if you're unable to make it to office, then you then you do some remote work. So had it in bits and pieces, especially in our tech industry. It works pretty seamlessly remotely as well, as long as people know how to collaborate and code together. Yeah, and then it was a sudden switch for everyone, but fortunately, the company that I started working for right after COVID was also a new company. So we had the opportunity to define the culture right from the beginning. And the ethos of remote work were embedded into the DNA of the company right from the beginning. But again, as you grow, you hire more people from outside, you hire leaders from outside who've probably never had remote experience before. So the interesting observation for me was some of the leaders were really veterans in their fields, the 20 plus years of experience in management, somehow found themselves to be disconnected with their teams. And the teams found themselves disconnected with their leader because just the style of working and going completely remote. Some of the leaders I worked with were really used to making phone calls and doing their work on phone calls, WhatsApp, and not so much on Slack. And sometimes they prefer to actually meet in person and do the most important meetings on that day, and then kind of like a hybrid setup. And then as times evolved, the company Affinity and also my new company now, Forto, went to hybrid mode. So 1 or 2 days in office and the rest in person, and the rest remote. So yeah, I mean, happy to go deeper into my opinions and perspective, but I guess to answer your question, this is how I started my remote journey.
Cheers, Kamal. Yeah, Shraddha, do you want to maybe give some insight into your experience?
Completely. I think similar to Kamal, pre-COVID era, it was if you can't go to work, if there's some event happening in your life, maybe we could take work from home in my previous organization. And then there was COVID, obviously. I was already managing a team and the team size was 1. During COVID, the team size increased from 1 to 3 teams of 21 in total. And I think the biggest challenge I had was onboarding people, keeping them motivated to work, as well as making sure that there was enough knowledge transfer, because when there's only one person initially who knows everything, you tend to rely on that person more for everything else, and that person couldn't contribute to work because they were just answering questions from the new people who had joined the team. So I think that was the biggest challenge I faced. Yeah, and now I think the current place where I'm in, I have recently joined here as well, right? So going to office helps because you can just reach out to someone and just ask them doubts, as compared to maybe set up a meeting, find some space in people's calendar, and try to make sure that you get that knowledge. As a lead, especially, it becomes a challenge. Yeah.
Cheers, Shraddha. Then Marc, do you want to give us?
Yeah, it's funny because I remember I was just trying to remember how it was early, and I remember the days when the companies were very skeptical about home office. I remember one day when I went by bike always to work, and there was one day and it rained like hell. And I asked my boss, so, hey, could I maybe do a day of home office, like working from home today? And he was, this is really necessary and so on. And was really, really skeptical. And yeah, and then later, was it, I think 2019 or a little later, then here in Germany also COVID hit in out of a sudden. So home office was the way to go, and everything was about home office, remote work. And it was exactly the opposite. So no one wanted to go to work, and also companies said, "Hey, stay home." And I remember my first, the first big impact was in my former company where I started. It's little related to what Shraddha said. I started there for the first day. My manager was there, and he introduced me a little into the product, into the office, and so on. And from there on, no one was in the office anymore. But I myself am rather an office guy, because here I can focus better. I feel, or I have a better disconnection from private and job. And so it was a tough time for me at the beginning, because then I was not working as a leader, so just as a developer, and staying or even getting in touch with the new colleagues was hard, and you feel then kind of lonesome for a while, but yeah, later it worked out, and then it became team lead and head of engineering in this company. And yeah, I tried to keep things up, like daily meetings, even though some people were not really enjoying it. But for me, it was one of those important things to keep the team together somehow, keep the spirit up, and try to keep them on track. A little what Shraddha as well said. And yeah, nowadays, then later it got back a little to this hybrid model. I think it's at most of the companies like this. But now at my current company, it's again like this, that at 90 or 95% of the time, I'm in the office all alone. It's not super nice, because I also enjoy actually having people around me, but that's how it is. And I still like it better to work at least in a home alone, in an empty office, just myself, than sitting at home all the time, because it is somehow depressing. Yeah, this is what I've been through, and yeah, that's so the journey.
Yeah, cheers, Marc. Yeah, I like how you've all got like slightly different sort of experiences with remote working, but I think like the key point really is human interaction. So whether you're working remotely or in the office, you need to be around people at some point, and that collaboration with your colleagues, it's definitely key. Yeah, so in terms of like the actual remote working side of it, then I suppose what would be like your opinions on the biggest advantage that you get out of remote working? And I suppose we'll go in the same order again, maybe starting with Dragan.
Yeah, for me, it's like Marc already mentioned, like when you want to focus better. So for me, like remote work, at least when I can do hybrid, it's for when I need to do some, let's say, architectural things, when I need really to focus, to concentrate, and then to go really deep into the code or the problem, or to find a solution. And that's what me, it's much easier to be at home, right? And to that kind of task, right? Or if I have a lot of meetings, also it works better, right? When you need to group team and to put them to work here and there, so to organize, maybe let's put it in that way. As I already mentioned, for some brainstorming or for some new ideas, it's not so ideal. But when everything is there and you just need to like set up and just to, I would say, maybe monitor, right? And it's better for me to work home because of that isolation and better concentration. So you are really focused on that one. You are really on the topic, and then I would say very efficient for me. It's to be at home on this kind of tasks, right? But for the rest, like you need people, or you need to go there into the office, like to be on site, right? That's for me, I would say, like where I work, like heavily tasks, thinking and concentrating. And you need a lot of concentration, maybe to put in one word, like.
Yeah. So in terms of Advantages, I think it depends on who you speak with. If you're saying my engineers should be in office every day, I'm not a big believer of that, because engineering as a profession is a creative profession. You need to be in the flow state, and your productivity hours tend to be quite limited in a particular day. You're not productive all 8 hours of the day. So when you're in the flow state and then you're in office, someone disturbs you, you're just out of that state. Whereas if you're, say, a product manager or an engineering leader, your job might be more on the thinking side, for which you might need to do some more whiteboarding, and you actually want those interruptions to happen, because then those water cooler conversations that happen on a daily basis can inspire you to think in a different angle. You might bump into another stakeholder that is very closely connected to your piece of work, and they might add some perspective that could change the way you think about your solutions. So in that sense, it's quite important for those kind of professions to be in office more regularly. I'm not a big proponent of daily in office. That's my perspective. So the advantages depend on who you're speaking with, and the more flow state you need in your job, the more I think you should be working remotely. Even whiteboarding, like I can probably show you a little thing that I hacked for fixing my whiteboarding. So this is a pen tablet, and that's my pen. So I can just connect this and I can present on my Zoom, and that's my whiteboard. And it's very easy to write. It's very intuitive, almost like a screen. So even for whiteboarding, as technology evolves more, I don't think you will need a lot of human interaction. It's just bumping into people and having more creative thoughts. Those are the areas where I think it's more valuable to be in office.
But it's still not, sorry for jumping in, it's still not the same as standing in front of a physical whiteboard, is it? Or what is your opinion on this? Because I remember these days when we stood 5 people in front of a whiteboard, someone had a pen, so drawing these rough squares and the arrows, and then you could just wipe them away, change it.
So I feel that's where the world would head with these kind of technologies. If you have more buy-in from company stakeholders to have such kind of technology and train people on it, this is also a possibility. But what is not possible in a remote setting, in my opinion, is last week we had a workshop, full-day workshop with some different stakeholders in my team, and we used sticky notes. We did not even use whiteboards, so we used sticky notes to write suggestions, and then we collated everything, bucketed them into similar buckets, almost like what we do in softwares like Miro and Figma these days, but in real world. So that also sparked some creative thought, and I personally feel that if you have those kind of long day workshops or like 3-hour workshops, it makes sense. But for a regular problem solving sessions, I feel that having multiple people on a remote session who can collaborate in a whiteboard, online whiteboard, would still be a good replacement for an in-person office. What is your perspective?
Yeah, I would actually like to slightly challenge that from the people perspective, because there might be a person who's shy, who might not be able to vocate properly, or might feel self-doubted because they do not have enough information on it. They would probably be more comfortable to discuss these things in whiteboarding in physical situation, and you can actually read the room as compared to maybe doing it online. So in those situations, maybe this might not work 100%, but again, as managers or team leads, you have to create that environment as well, where everyone feels a place where they can speak. But I think that is still a tad bit of thing where we cannot probably completely go online.
I think you're right. To add to your thought, another observation I've had is that behaviors tend to be different in person and online. So the amount of participation you see from people is different in person versus online, in my observation at least.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, we had our sprint planning sessions on Monday. So basically my team is also hybrid. So we come to work 3 days a week. We used to have a sprint planning sessions on Mondays where no one comes to work. So everyone's working online. But when we moved it to a Tuesday, when everyone does come to office, everyone had an opinion, everyone was voicing it. So I could actually see the difference, from an in-person to a virtual kind of environment. Yeah.
It is. I also see it always as super exhausting having long Zoom video calls in general, because also just these very simple things, like you have a small delay always by half a second, 1 second or so. So, and you think, okay, the other person who's just talking has finished and you want to say something, and then you have 3 options. Actually, you are lucky and you can continue talking and people are listening. Or the one who's talking right now didn't finish yet and start talking, so you're overlapping, or a third person starts talking. And I find this always super stressy to keep the things going, while when you're on physically together, it's working more organic. So, and the talks are quite more fluid. And so on the video calls, I also perceive that sometimes people just kind of give up. So they are in the meetings. Maybe this is what happens to your meetings there, Shraddha, that, at some point they don't say anything. They're frustrated at some point and think, so, okay, come on, let's go. And turn off the camera in the worst case. So I'm quickly AFK, I'm back in a second. So, and this is what I experienced, what I find very sad also. And it's really too sad about very important opinions. And especially shy people who you really usually already need to take into the discussion. So asking explicitly for their opinion in a video call, this is even more difficult, because there you have these loud people, not in a negative way, but people that you hear quite often and that have a strong opinion, versus these people who have then rarely a chance really to speak their mind. Is pretty difficult thing.
I think what usually happens is they feel someone else will answer the question, but also I think it's easier to read the room as we can observe if someone wants to say something just by looking at their face. But in a Zoom session, it's difficult to maybe look at everyone at the same time, which is more feasible and flexible when you are working in person.
It's a different skill. I think as leadership evolves to be more remote, leaders will be rewarded for sensing the room in a remote setting. It's a new skill that even old leaders have to develop. And it's a quite interesting point that you brought up, because this is also a topic of humor, right? Which is, in person, you can make jokes in between a meeting on a certain point, but humor needs timing. And in an online call, you unmute and you say the joke, it doesn't land. So there's also that aspect that you miss.
Yeah, true, absolutely true. And it's, but this is also a thing, what I mentioned before, there's these, like what you said, just these jokes that are not landing, so, or that you cannot make, because then when you make a joke, and usually you can whisper to a person next to you, this is fine, but here you would interrupt immediately the entire discussion. And this is already one of the things that kill the team spirit, not in total, but in terms of how it was before, also before COVID, because this before this hybrid remote working model, which is a little sad, but of course what you said is totally valid. You need to develop these skills in future, especially the leaders, to keep the things together. And it's really a challenge. I find this for myself, and I'm also try to work on this, or not I try to work on this, I work on this to get better. But sometimes depending also on the characters that you have in the team, it's a tricky one.
Even for humor, right? It's a skill that you can develop. I've seen some leaders lead remote calls in a really fun way that we can all learn from, that could not be applied in a physical setting. So I guess like leaders will be rewarded as they learn more, because the reality would be hybrid, I think, moving forward, the practical reality, and leaders who can do well on both sides would usually be rewarded.
Yeah, definitely. I think also that it is definitely necessary. I remember that I was once applying for a company, and I was asking, so how do they work, like remote, hybrid? And they told me it's completely remote, because they don't even have an office. They have an address for a mailbox, I think, and like a co-working space or something like this. I can't remember exactly. And yeah, and there was this was really surprising that it is really this 100% remote. And yeah, and I admire people who are able to do this in what you said in a fun way. And yeah, I'm pretty really trying to get there as well. And it's a very challenging thing, but also a thing that I look forward to. Yeah, I'm really curious about this.
So for me, it's also a challenge, like,
yeah, so maybe the advantage that I see. Kamal, have you been through? Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you at this point.
No, just continue. I will go after you. Just continue. Finish your thoughts.
Okay. And yeah, what I see, of course, is with the remote work is that you have the flexibility for people to also not just do this remote work, like with the perspective on the work, but also for their private life. And I think this is also one big advantage. And I hope that a lot of companies also keep it, because this is, I think, what is motivating, or what is a big motivator for people as well. And so for example, I have a colleague whose boyfriend is living a few hundred kilometers from here. So most of the time she's there, and this relationship would just not be possible without having this possibility, or the possibility to do this. And this is one of the most important things. And yeah, the rest is, of course, it comes always with a cost. So there's no free dish. Yeah, but I think this is one of the major points. Also very simple things, doing the laundry, at home, because otherwise, for example, me, I could just do this on the weekend. And so, okay, in the morning, I put in the laundry into the washing machine, let it go through, and then put it on the dryer. And so I don't have to waste my weekend for waiting for the laundry.
Yeah, so definitely you have more flexibility when you are remote, or when you have kids. Like if you are family guy, then it has a lot of flexibility. But for me, the biggest challenge are meetings. Always I have problems with meetings. For instance, focus of people. I see that most of time developers will do aside. They will code and be in the meeting at the same time, because you can clearly see that commits are coming while you are on meetings, right? And then that's for me something what it's wasting of time. It's not effective so much, right? Because then you need to repeat again, or to, as some of you say, develop new skill that you notice that he is not present, then you need to call his name and to explain that you should not do this or that. So you are just wasting of time, right? And then when you are in person, I figure out that they are more focused. They look at you, they talk, they discuss, and so on. And then for some meeting in the office, I need half hour, 1 hour. Probably for this one, I need 1 or 2 hours. And then later I need to explain for some specific people what was not there. So for me, that was the biggest challenge to figure out, or maybe it's not so hard to figure out these days as like mentioned already, because you can see clearly that he is not here. But how to motivate them and to explain them he needs to pay attention to this one, because most of them say hey, some other guys will answer it, so you need to call names, and that sometimes not so nice, right? And then say, hey, you're always calling me to discuss this or that, you have also other developers to discuss that one. And that's what missed to me. I feel somehow more connection or energy when you are in the office with these people, as you said, jokes or this one or that one. So that's for me biggest chance. Maybe some of you guys have solution for this one. How would you I don't know, how you will talk to them more, how you will make them to be more focused, or to participate more in the meetings, or not to code in the same time?
Yeah, it is. Oh, go ahead. Ladies first.
Thank you. I think I would add to that. It is also difficult to get a common time between, some important stakeholders, even to set a meeting when we are working virtually. So that is another concern if I'm at work, I'll probably find these people and say, do you have 5 minutes? Let's just sit together, discuss this out, as compared to finding a common slot in everyone's calendars so that we can discuss it virtually. So yeah, I think that is another issue that
For me, it's one of the key factors is first to keep the meetings short and crisp, because when you have a meeting physically or in person, so which goes 2 hours, so in the end you see everyone's like, oh God, I can't stand it anymore. And on video calls, this is even shorter, so keep the things short. And also having what you said, Dragan, actually, so having these interactions with the people, because then they are forced. I mean, forced sounds negative, but then they are forced to stay with you on the meeting and ask them things, because I know exactly what you mean. You look at the faces and you see them slowly but steady drifting away from the topic. And so at some point you ask someone a question after a few minutes and you know exactly, okay, he does not know what it is about anymore, but he tried to talk around it. And this is always one of these challenges that Kamal also, I think, described, that needs to be developed. But this is what I found out. And also sometimes I was just very direct. So when I saw someone in the video call, like we have it now, and you saw his shoulders moving quickly, so, and you see, okay, this guy is typing, and just, I mean, this is sometimes mean, maybe, to really tell someone, hey, could you please participate in the meeting and stop doing whatever you're doing there? But it works out. So, and this is then, so it's a little also the responsibility of the the participants of the meeting, that they stay in the meeting and not drift away.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, it's like to have shorter meeting and to be on the topic all the time, not to go around, and that will help me a lot, agenda. So I'm trying always to put the description so people can really come prepared, because even if it's a short meeting, 15-20 minutes, then people say, hey, it's like too much of work to put agenda because it's really short meeting. But for me, that agenda works perfectly. Like, go there, just discuss these topics, leave them to go to code. And that works for now for me. But on some longer meetings, that where it's getting tricky to like, that they are like the whole meeting participating and focused. But that's what I need to figure out, like how to go with meeting in 1 hour that everyone's there. For half hour, like 15 minutes, that's for me the best meetings currently, and it works. But for longer, I need to find a way. Maybe, as I said, some of you have ideas how that can be improved, right? As you, Marc, already mentioned, like go call their name or check what they do and ask them to participate. And sometimes, like even if you call their name and you clearly it was not here, maybe next time he will know that one is what happened and he will pay more attention. Because I see that sometimes, really, to be honest, rude, because you are just not respecting time. So us and other people, because you are here with us, but basically you are not.
Yeah,
so
I think adding an agenda always helps, and maybe informing the people that if you find that this is not relevant to you, don't join the meeting, decline it. I mean, I honestly feel that every meeting should have an agenda, even if maybe 5-10 minutes, so that the other person knows what they are getting into. And if they feel they cannot contribute, just decline. Me personally, I decline meetings. I feel that if they are if people want me to be present and want their view on this topic, then they will maybe postpone it. But if it is something which I'm there just as a need to know, maybe an MOM can help there instead of having a meeting for that.
Yeah, exactly. So you see the agenda. If you don't want to be there, it's not for you, decline, and just put the reason. That's why you have reason. Put the reason. This is not for me, right? I need this or that, and just go on. Just that people who are on the meeting, they are really connected to this one. Because sometimes I don't know who is connected to this issue, what we currently have. So I need to address to a few people. And you see that's not for you. For you, just decline with the message, right? And that also can help to have more effective meeting, because people are afraid to decline. They say, what will happen because my leader will like create a meeting and I will decline. That's fine to decline with a message, right? Because that's not for you meeting.
Yeah.
So that's a good one. Yeah.
It needs to be, it's a cultural thing, right? Also, so to be able to have this physical, psychological safety, to be able to say, okay, no, this is not for me. I'm not interested. It doesn't, has no impact on me. So yeah, I don't want to participate there.
Yeah, I think you have to lead by example, I guess, here. So if we do that, people will see and, they will try to replicate it in their day-to-day life as well.
Yeah.
On the same topic of participation in remote meetings, what I have observed is that a smaller meeting of 4 to 8 people has the problem that you mentioned, which is people don't participate. But my observation is that if the meeting is larger, like 20 plus, 30 plus people, online meetings actually have more participation than offline meetings because you have the feature of chatting and you also have the feature of interacting, reacting, and stuff like that. So I've seen larger meetings. There's a chat going on the side where people are learning from each other, asking each other questions. So it makes it more interactive and lively to have larger meetings online. But yeah, I still don't have the answer to participation in a smaller meeting other than encouraging people and maybe talking to them one-on-one about it.
I don't think there's one right answer really, is it? It depends on the people you have in the room and how you're addressing each individual person. It's quite hard to tailor a meeting if you've got 4 or 5 people who are completely different types of people.
Yeah, there's no silver bullet, right?
Yeah.
Actually, it's no problem, I think.
Yeah. I do have another question that I'd like to ask everyone. In your opinions, like what would be the number one biggest value of having people in the office? So we're going on the other end of remote working, like having people in the office. What is the biggest value in that? And I suppose we'll go in the same order again, starting with Dragan.
For me, it's kind of like team boundaries. That's connection what you lost, like, because I work with some people that I never saw in my, like, in person, and then somehow I still cannot connect to them, right? And then when you have this hybrid, or at least like you can see them, and somehow you gain a better connection to that guys. I really miss lunches in person, for instance. That's the most of time when I will connect to this person in the best way, and then we can work more effective, right? And without this meeting, I'm just somehow, without this connection, like I'm somehow imagining this guy and with who I need to work, and it's very hard for me also to see other things of him where I can have benefits, because probably he knows maybe this one or that one. When I talked about that one, because lunches, it's exactly for offsite talk, right? And then you can learn more about that person, and later you can like do better job with him. And we tried to do that on retrospective, that we go with some random questions, like what's your hobby, what do you do in your free time, and this one or that one, to make that better connection. That's what miss me, like from office work, like that lunches, I would say, right? Or after work, like beers, or I don't know, some random coffee in the kitchen. That's some things like what miss in remote work, like that you can make a better connection to the person. That's how I see it.
Excellent. Cheers, Dragan. Yeah, Kamal, do you want to tell us what you think?
Yeah, so there's an example that I can share with you. So the reason I was 5 minutes late to this meeting, so I was in office today, and while I was leaving, there was a person in my team who was doing something with my product manager, and he showed me something cool. He showed me a third-party system which has a huge security vulnerability. It was like a cool thing to show, and it doesn't affect us because it's not our system. But this kind of a thing would not happen in a remote setting. He would not set up a 10-minute meeting with me to show something cool. It's just like something I was just passing by, and he stopped me and he showed me something. So this is the kind of thing I miss in, like, this is the most biggest advantage, according to me, for in office work and in-person work. These kind of water cooler conversations or cool things that you would otherwise not see unless you set up a meeting. Even the one-on-ones that I have with some people are weekly, and so you can't do this on a daily basis. But if you're in office, you are able to just overhear conversations and either jump into that, or people just stop you and invite you to show you something cool. So those kind of learnings don't happen.
Yeah. I think adding to what Dragan and Kamal said, those are very two valid points. I think the speed of execution and productivity, I honestly feel slightly increases when you are in person, because decision making becomes faster. It's easier to get hold of stakeholders and make those decisions, have those conversations. And I think it also helps with the networking, because I think every person should have a network to gain more perspective, gain ideas, even for that matter, have career advice, right? So that helps when you are working in person, you can understand the other person and have that human touch.
Yeah, a lot of things have been said already, especially this water cooler conversation. I remember also there was a time for me when I was in my former company leading the entire team, and out of a sudden I talked with one of the guys from marketing, and he told me something, I can't remember what it was, and which had a big impact on our department and on the planning, and otherwise it would have gone somehow sneaky into the roadmap. And so I was aware then afterwards. So this was, they was pretty happy to get this. And also one of the things that I miss between the engineers, or when I was an engineer or mainly engineer back then, is these, so you have a problem and you ask your neighbor, hey, I can't get further. I have an error message here and I don't know why this comes. So maybe you experienced this already. And then he just comes across the table or comes with a chair next to you. Okay, so and then you can program together. And of course, you have these tools, code together, screen sharing and all that. But before you set up this this video call and then do a screen sharing or set up this code together plugin in VS Code, then you think, okay, let's try it further. And then this is also all these social interactions. Yeah, they are the big part that I'm missing.
I think I have a real life example here because I'm new to the company. I'm learning things. I was working on something and there was a big question mark on my face, and someone just read it. It came to my desk and like, do you need help with something? And I was like, yeah, can you please help me with this? You know, so that kind of engagement becomes very difficult in a remote workspace.
Yeah, people have to be way more proactive to do these things and also stay connected. Especially also these shy people that we talked about, they sometimes tend to step back and are even less visible. And it's also a thing when you want to have a career and climb up the ladder. For such people, it's getting difficult because usually you would maybe realize or recognize them and see what they're doing. But when they are getting more and more back and you see them, yeah, in the worst case, when you don't do dailies, maybe once a week, when you don't really watch them carefully and look at the team dynamics and so on, they're getting kind of invisible. And so you have the louder ones, the louder persons have more the chance for promotions, salary raises. And this is also a very difficult thing, which is easier to handle when people are in the office. But nonetheless, I think it's unrealistic in the meantime. Yeah, even Amazon and Google and Facebook, they have problems to get their people back without that they quit their jobs. So yeah, but social interaction. This is
on that point, Marc, about shy people and visibility. One thing that I try to do with such people is to, if you're in a remote setting, your office is Slack or whatever tool that you're working on for written communication. So in a remote world, written communication becomes very powerful, much more powerful than it is in an in-person world. So I recommend such people to be more visible on Slack in public channels. If they have something to share or ask, try to do it as much as possible in writing, as much as possible in front of a public audience, so that not only are they visible, but also other people can overhear this kind of a conversation and learn from it. So my observation has been that, there are shy people and the loud ones take over in a call. But when you're not on a call, that's when the real office or work happens. And that's also something that can add to your visibility and effectively at the end of the year, also give you some bonus points on your performance review. I know some people like that who are actually, we hired were not so good in English, but they were very good in written communication, and they were able to convince stakeholders asynchronously rather than more synchronously.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, of course, there are ways and you can do this, but nonetheless, you have still the tendency that these people are even less visible than if this as if this would be in person. It's a tendency, but yeah, of course, you can try to push them a little and in this direction. Not a little, you can try to push them, but you can also do it too pushy because then you're also getting back again. So it's very hard to balance this. But yeah, no, I'm totally I totally agree to this.
I think over communication has been a mantra for our company to adjust with the remote setting. If you're in doubt, just write it down and communicate it. Don't keep it to yourself. Versus in a physical world, you could have silos of information. In a remote world, you try to break those silos by over communicating. This is another strategy. But yeah, again, the challenge remains that if you have a synchronous meeting and the person is not speaking up, that of course that will not be so good for their visibility.
Did you make the experience that there are knowledge silos are created when people are more in person in the office? Or did I misunderstand this now?
In my previous world, when I was working mostly physically, my observation was that we would not track our calendars so much because we would be mostly interacting on a day-to-day basis with our team members. So the information sharing was mostly top-down, and stakeholders were, in my experience, not talking so much to each other. So you tend to form a bit more of a silo of the world that you live in, and then you don't, because at that time Slack also was not so prominent like it is now. So I guess in today's world, Slack has helped a lot in bringing that communication gap back, because in those times we would just talk in emails, and emails are a little bit more hard to send and hard to have everyone CC'd on it. So one of the good things that have happened over time is the remote trend, and things like tools like Slack have also helped everyone bridge those gaps.
But on my side, I mean, this is a more general thing, right? Because we also used before COVID, or when it started with this remote work, we were working with back then Slack, now it's Teams, but I mean in the end it's all the same. And what I said before, like so talking to someone across the table, it was not like that every 5 minutes people were talking, but also just sometimes putting information into the chat, because it's also this communication. So synchronous communication often pulls people out of what they're doing at this moment. You have the context switch. So we also in the past wrote down in the chat and then waited until the other persons answered. So I'm not sure if this is really a thing regarding or which is related to remote work. But yeah, okay, if you made this experience, I didn't get this by now.
I think I had, it was a very interesting thing that Kamal you said, because I have a completely contradicting experience where when I was managing 3 teams previously, I could see that silos happening in a virtual remote kind of a setting more than, an in-person, because even if you see as leads that there's a problem, there are silos happening, or even as a developer, you can just approach one of those people and, understand what is happening right there. But that becomes difficult to understand when you are remotely working. I think as leaders or as managers, we have a great responsibility when our teams are working remotely, because we have to identify who's performing, who's not performing, who is making more noise and who is not able to make noise but is performing well, and have that balance so that everyone gets an opportunity, everyone gets visibility. And that, I think, becomes a challenge the bigger the teams you have, the higher you grow, because if you're leading managers, then there's slightly cut off between, what is happening, maybe 2 steps down or 3 steps down. But yeah, I think it's more on managers who have a great responsibility when we are working remotely.
Excellent. Cheers, everyone's really good points there. Like the fact that everyone's got slightly different opinions still. I do want to see as well what everyone thinks, because obviously there's this whole thing of hybrid, and everyone seems to think that's the best option. But I want to know what everyone's opinion is. If you imagine hybrid doesn't exist and you have to pick either fully remote or fully on site, what option would you go down?
I would definitely go remote because of more flexibility, right? All of this, I would say that remote work has, at the end of the day, like less disadvantages. So you can like overcome this one as like already like show like with whiteboard and this or that way. Also, I saw it like, I don't know, 1 month ago that also Confluence introduced some kind of whiteboard. I haven't tested it, and people probably will overcome this sooner or later with some tools, right? So it will happen. And for lunch, you can always call a friend, like you can always go there. And so even I said like we are remote first, I still go to the office, so I still prefer that hybrid, but I go once in a month or 2 times in a month. And always you can go in some open space, or you can find that things what you are missing, and to overcome, like I would say, disadvantage of remote work. So I would vote for remote work because it has more advantages for me. First one is flexibility, like you are very flexible here. Right? But it's also like bring you that you need to have like discipline. Maybe that's hard to learn. And also what I would like to add, like what is missing here all the time, maybe later on we can discuss also, is that remote work is not for everyone. I would say that you need to have experience there. That's where I feel first time, right? Maybe that's also something what's also bothering a lot of people on remote work because of their experience. If they are juniors, probably that will not work in any case. They will say that's better to go in the office for them. Maybe that's something what we can discuss later. But to answer on your question, I will go with remote.
Yeah, Dragan, I'm on the same boat, but so if I had a magic wand, I would do a remote setting with a requirement to meet every quarter for quarterly planning. So we have like an agile cadence of 4 times a year, at least, meeting together. Because I think for a human, it's very important to stay connected with your personal life, and remote work allows you to do that. So if you're someone, I don't have kids, but if you're someone who has kids, you don't want to miss out on their very early years because you're 10 hours in office and then very tired when you come back home. So I think I would prioritize that because of purely private life and prioritizing life over work. But at the same time, I do want to go to work and I do want to meet my teams as someone who's more senior and managing other people. I see the importance of that. And I would, of course, not restrict people not meeting each other, but I would mandate in-person meetings only 4 times a year. That would be my philosophy.
Don't crucify me, but I have a different opinion. I would rather go in person than remote. One, because a human touch is needed, and people might go into isolation and might not understand, might be disconnected with the others if they're working remotely. Especially as leaders, I think it becomes really tough to manage people because a lot of and drive their career paths with not knowing what is actually happening around. The speed of execution, like I previously mentioned, is faster. Decision making is faster in person. But maybe in certain situations, we can discount people where there are some big personal events that are happening in their life. Obviously, in case there's a new baby in the house or there's some death in the family, in those cases, we do need to discount such people, but I'd rather go in person.
I just see that there's Marc in my name. I actually changed this, but seems like Zoom didn't store it. Oh my God. I'm here with Kamal at this point. I would also go for, if I could wish it for my very self, I would go for this office approach, but I would never expect from other people to wish for the same. So if I would need to choose, let's say choose, then I would also go for the remote or completely remote approach. But the same thing with meeting at least once in a while with all people together, because I see this also super important. And then it's then the company's responsibility to maybe pay the flights, the train, the hotel, whatever is needed to ensure this. Especially here in Germany, we have this problem. I think it's all over the world in the meantime, that it is very hard to find employees, like really good engineers. And with this complete remote, you are able to hire them from all over the world. So someone can work from India, from Pakistan, from the US, from wherever. And this is an opportunity that you would not have otherwise. There's one funny thing. I mean, I'm hiring now people since 6 years almost, or even a little more. And over the entire time, I had, I think, a handful of German candidates. So I don't know where they are in total, maybe in bigger companies, maybe in these traditional companies. And this is also for me a sign that it is necessary to be open for the entire world to hire people. Yeah, and
if we hire Berliners in Berlin, we call them diversity hires. They're so rare.
Really, yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's really tough. It's really tough, and this is one of the points where completely remote work makes totally sense to me. And it's also not getting better. It's even a little like an analogy to decoupling software. So when then you have an employee and his life changes totally, he wants to go to Thailand, maybe, don't know, making vacation for half a year, then there's no change in the processes of the company. So he can just do what he's doing or what they are doing by now, and without influencing or impacting on the company and the day-by-day work.
I'm curious, Shraddha, would you choose in-person every day or would you choose hybrid? What would be your split?
Hybrid anytime, but not for me. I'd rather go to office every day because for me it's very difficult to cut off from work. So if I'm working from home, I'll probably work till 7, 8 p.m. maybe spend the whole night just working. But when I go to work, and then I know when I'm leaving work, that is my cutoff. So for me personally, I'd rather go to work every day. For obviously the team and everyone else, it makes sense to have a hybrid thing. Yeah.
It's for me similar, funny thing, because I mean, I'm also pretty often in the office. I would like to go all the time here. And sometimes people are laughing because I need to go by bus 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the evening. But for me, it's really this. So in the morning, so I'm getting like my mentally getting into work, and afterwards in the evening, so okay, now job is done, getting mentally back to private life. Always have a book with me, read this, and I can totally relate to you. I find this also very important.
To be honest, if while working at home, today I'm working from home, so if I spend some time cooking lunch and then I think, oh, I wasted some time, so I start feeling guilty a bit and then overcompensate by working more. So there's no work-life balance there. The work-life completely becomes integrated. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah, I think like work-life integration is something Amazon talks a lot about and Jeff Bezos talks a lot about. So yeah, I guess like I have the same sort of idea, but from a different perspective, which is I'm very happy that I can cook lunch and be on a meeting at the same time. It's a very productive use of my time.
Oh, you do this? Like in the
Sometimes
kitchen, having the laptop next to you?
Well, when I'm in a listen-only meeting, then I do this.
Okay.
Of course, when I'm participating or I'm one of the main persons. So of course, I'm not cooking right now, as you can see. But if I am on a listen meeting, I would try to make a meal for myself. Otherwise, if I have a small break in between, I can also do some meal prep because I eat a lot. So I like to have these pockets of time where I can jump into my personal life and then jump back to my professional life. And because after a certain level of seniority, your schedule is in your own hands. You're not being watched by 20 people, how much time you spend. It's not like in the tech industry, it's not like a factory work where you have to clock in 8 hours. It's more of a creative field where if you contribute 2 or 3 very productive hours that can create a big impact, that's more valuable than 8 hours of slogging. So this is why it's also important for me personally to have this balance between my mental well-being and also my manage my work responsibilities. And I try to juggle both. It's very convenient.
I find it difficult to multitask while at work. When I'm at work, I just want to focus on one thing. So maybe if it's a listen-only meeting, I'll just decline it. I'll be like, send me a MOM. I'll probably read that instead of joining the meeting. But like I said, it is like my personal choice. I would like to go to work every day, but I would rather go for hybrid, I think, because that gives a lot of flexibility to certain people.
Actually, I even try to, if I know that the meeting is being recorded, I would sometimes not attend it and watch it at 2x speed later, just to make better use of my time.
time management is a key, I think, for everyone. So
Because
people
at any week, my calendar is usually, I don't know, out of 40, maybe 30 hours of meetings. So I try to save as much time as possible because you also need thinking time, right, as a leader.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to efficiency and getting the right balance and what's right for each individual person. I don't like to let these go over an hour, so we've probably got time for like one quick question. I want to ask basically a bit into what Dragan mentioned there. So I want to see what everyone's opinion is on like who shouldn't work remotely. Are there people within software who you think maybe should be in the office?
Yeah, as I mentioned, like I found very hard to work with juniors when you need to mentor them a lot. So it will be a lot of meetings and you cannot show. So I really miss that, what we mentioned here, like pair programming. So I tried with live share and few of us participate there, but it never worked that it was in person. Like then you can really quick solve some problems, or you can draw, or you can show this one or that one. So I would say for mentoring people, it's the problem. So if you need to mentor someone, or sometimes also onboarding, it's hard, like to do everything virtually, right? And that's kind of stuff what I would say, like new hires or juniors, maybe let me put it that way, that's not remote for them. And when we do interviews, like it depends on the which position you apply. For instance, if you are senior, I really ask you, have you ever worked in the remote company, right? If you have experience there, that's fine. If you don't have experience there, that can be a problem. So I cannot treat you as a senior because you need to have that remote culture. And for this position, right, you need to know how to collaborate with other people, because you will also be mentor, right? And that's somehow how I found, right? Like seniors, juniors, or onboarding, or like newcomers. That's what I would say. It needs to be in the office. The rest, it can be like in the remote work. That's how I would separate somehow.
Yeah, I agree, Dragan, and I would add to it, very junior people and very senior people should ideally be in office. So if I know that my CTO and CPO are not aligned to each other, then it would create a lot of problems for my organization. So I think it's very important for very high senior leadership and very beginner kind of junior to early mid-level folks who are not so good yet to be in office. But then if they're in office, I don't want them to talk to each other. They should be talking to someone senior. So at that time when they're being onboarded, it's important to have some seniors around. But yeah, for onboarding, I guess it's, in my opinion, it's not so important to be in office. Lots of companies are creating very good documentation when they write code. So I guess if you're senior or plus, it should be fine. But yeah, junior or very senior should ideally be in office more.
Yeah, I completely agree. But adding to it, I think onboarding, one is a documentation part, and another one is probably making sure that they fit in the culture and they are also comfortable. So in those scenarios, I'd rather have the new joiners maybe be more in person. Adding to that, I think it's not only people, it's also situations. Maybe when you are having your OKR set up for maybe quarter or a year, we'd rather have everyone on the same page. Then there are collaborations, more decision makings involved. In those situations, I'd rather have people in person, and like Marcy had said, maybe in whiteboarding sessions as well, we would want to have people in person as compared to maybe a remote.
Yeah, same things for me, actually. I think also it's not about the persons themselves, it's rather about the circumstances they are in. Like, yeah, when you have these very things that are just fast and more efficient to do in person, then I think it would make sense for them to come to the office. Under the assumption, of course, that it is possible to do it. But I would not say, okay, juniors now always have to come here or for the onboarding, because sometimes it's unrealistic, unfortunately. So yeah, depending, so rather on demand. So when it makes sense.
Excellent, thanks everyone. Yeah, I think that, to be fair, that is about all we've got time for. With this topic, probably go on and on and on forever. To be fair, there's numerous points to discuss. But yeah, got to remember, people have got to watch this. And as you mentioned before, when meetings go on for a bit too long, people tend to lose focus. So I think that concludes it. But thank you everyone for attending and sharing your opinions. Yeah, obviously this will be uploaded within a week to our YouTube channel, and I'll reach out to all of you and let you know so you can check it out.
Yeah, thank you very
Thanks,
much,
Aidan.
guys. It
Thank you.
was super interesting.
Thanks, everyone.
Enjoy your evening, everyone.
You too.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.